In a mysterious land full of secrets, there's a fascinating story about a man who went from being unknown to incredibly powerful, and it's both captivating and a bit scary. Grigori Rasputin, just saying his name gives you goosebumps, like he's a character from a spooky story. Rasputin was haunted by the loss of his brothers, so he turned to magic and strange stuff to try and figure out life's big questions. But it's not just his sad past that made him who he was. Ever since he was a kid, he had this weird talent for finding lost things, which made everyone in his village amazed and talking about his special powers. When Rasputin went to the big city of St. Petersburg, people already knew about him as a healer and someone who could help with spiritual stuff. But under his nice guy act, there was something darker going on. Rasputin had a crazy amount of control over the Russian royal family, and no one could break it. But when people started talking about secrets and trying to take down the government, Rasputin's real power was put to the test. Born in a small, faraway village called Pokrovsky in Siberia back in 1869, Grigori Yefimovich Rasputin didn't have an easy start. He grew up poor and faced a lot of tough times. But even in those hard times, he had this strange knack for finding things that were lost, which made the villagers think he had some kind of special powers. Rasputin was really into religion and spiritual stuff from a young age. He joined a church when he was a kid and got deep into mystical practices. He even said he could see into the future. People tell stories about him predicting what would happen in Russia and even helping catch a thief who stole a horse. As Rasputin traveled around, word spread about his amazing healing powers. People said he could cure sick people just by touching them, making him seem even more mysterious and holy. But then Rasputin took a darker path. He left the church and started living a wild life, joining a group called the Klists who believed you had to do sinful things to get close to God. He wore scruffy clothes and did scandalous stuff, saying it was all part of finding spiritual truth. Even though he looked rough, Rasputin had this charm that drew people in, especially women. People said he could hypnotize them and that he had secret relationships with royal ladies. But as Rasputin got deeper into his dark side, he also got hooked on booze and drugs, which made him act even weirder. He claimed he could talk to dead people, freaking out everyone he met. Rasputin's journey to the big city of St. Petersburg was pretty unexpected, but fate had other ideas. People already knew about him as a miracle worker, and that caught the attention of the desperate Romanovs, who were hoping he could help their sick son, Alexei. The Romanovs were really desperate, hoping Rasputin could pull off some kind of miracle. Alexei had this serious illness called hemophilia, and it was tearing the royal family apart. Rasputin said he could ease the poor kid's suffering, and to some, it seemed like he actually could. But to others, it just made them more suspicious of his hold over the royal family. As Rasputin got more power in the royal court, people started talking about him behind his back. He had this weird charm over the royal family, especially the Empress Alexandra, which made other important people really mad. They thought he was a threat to the monarchy. Imagine, a guy who looked like he just rolled out of bed telling the royals what to do. It was too much for some folks to handle. And it didn't stop there. Rumors spread that Rasputin was giving the prince advice on things like how to dress better or when to bust a move to lighten the mood. The whole thing was just bizarre. Here you had this holy man, or so he claimed, giving fashion tips and dance lessons to the prince. While all this craziness was going on, tensions were rising across Russia. People were struggling, and they didn't like seeing Rasputin have so much influence over the royal family. Rasputin's talks with the Tsar during the war with Germany caused a lot of controversy. Empress Alexandra, who really believed in Rasputin's mystical powers and thought he could help their son Alexei with his illness, often pushed Nicholas II to listen to Rasputin's advice. But a lot of people in the Russian government and military didn't like it. Rasputin's advice during the war was all over the place. Sometimes he said they should try to make peace with Germany, and other times he said they should go full steam ahead with the fighting. But it seemed like he was making it up as he went along, relying more on his gut feelings and mystical beliefs than any real military strategy. The British weren't too happy about Rasputin's role either. They saw him as a bit of a weirdo and didn't trust his influence over the Russian royal family. They worried that his strange behavior and unpredictable advice could mess things up for Russia and its allies, including Britain. Rasputin's influence over the Russian royal family got some important people in Russia really worried. Prince Felix Yusupov, Vladimir Purishkevich, and Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich thought Rasputin was causing too much trouble for the monarchy and the country, especially by having so much power over Empress Alexandra. They felt they needed to do something about it fast. So, they got together to figure out how to get rid of Rasputin. Their plan to poison Rasputin involved putting deadly stuff called potassium cyanide into cakes and wine. On December 30, 1916, Prince Felix Yusupov, one of the guys in on the plan, invited Rasputin over to his place for what Rasputin thought was just a friendly get-together. When Rasputin got there, Yusupov gave him the poisoned treats and drinks. But here's the crazy part, Rasputin ate and drank everything without even flinching. The poison didn't seem to bother him at all, which totally shocked the guys who were trying to kill him. They thought for sure it would knock him out or worse. Since the poison didn't work, they ended up shooting Rasputin multiple times to finally bring him down. Then they wrapped his body in a carpet and took it to the Neva River in St. Petersburg. They tried to get rid of the body by tossing it into a hole cut in the ice. But when they found Rasputin's body a few days later, they saw that he had somehow managed to free one of his hands and had clawed at the ice, trying to escape. This just added to the mystery around Rasputin's death, making people wonder if he had some kind of superpowers. After Rasputin died, there were stories going around that he wrote a letter to Tsarina Alexandra, predicting his own death. In this letter, Rasputin supposedly warned Alexandra that if government officials killed him, the entire royal family would be dead within 2 years. A few months after Rasputin died, the Romanov family was kept under house arrest in different places after Nicholas II gave up the throne in 1917 because of the February Revolution. In July 1918, they were moved to the Apatiev house in Yekaterinburg by the Bolsheviks. On the night of July 16, 1918, the family and their servants were woken up and told they were being taken to a safer place because enemy forces were getting close. But instead, they were taken to the basement of the Apatiev house, where they were lined up and shot by a firing squad. At first, it was chaotic, and some family members survived because they had jewels sewn into their clothes, which acted like armor. But they were eventually killed with bayonets and more gunfire. The bodies of the Romanovs were hidden in a far-off place, and efforts were made to cover up the crime. It wasn't until many years later, in 1991, that their bodies were found and confirmed to be theirs through DNA testing. Grigori Rasputin's ascent to power was as mysterious as it was controversial, his influence casting a dark shadow over the Romanov dynasty. As the winds of change swept across Russia, his legacy would endure as a cautionary tale of the perils of unchecked power and the fragility of empires.